Hello and welcome to the channel. Welcome to the Miyagi Championship Final. My name is Atrocious. You can also call me Jake. I'm going to be doing another unofficial English commentary video as usual over these Japan Championships in the OP08.5 meta, as I'm calling it, with the new starter decks 15 through 20 released. We've got Red, Purple Law, and Rob Lucci, as you probably noticed by the title and the thumbnail. Going to be an interesting final in this one. Rob Lucci, according to the last several videos that we've had on this channel in OP08, we've showcased a ton of tournaments if you want to check out those as well. Rob Lucci currently having a 4-1 record against Red, Purple Law across those tournaments. So one could say that Rob Lucci, arguably Red Purple Law's arch nemesis when it comes to this format. So this matchup coming in once again, going to be interesting. We've seen this Red Purple Law players list. We saw that they had the interesting inclusion of the one of Radical Beam. We'll see if that helps them out in this game. The Rob Lucci, as we've seen in previous tournaments, haven't seen this deck list as of yet, but interesting to see how this deck has maybe evolved through this tournament. I'm excited to have you all with me here today. And remember, this is not the official live stream that I'm making in this video. I'm watching the official broadcast and live stream. So if you want to go check out the official one, a link is in the description below to their official page in there if you don't want to hear me yap. But those of you that want to hear me yap, I'm excited to have you there. Don't forget again to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz as you usually do in videos. But let's look at our Red Purple Law's hand. So I don't know if they mulliganed for this or they ended up keeping this hand, but 3 queens in here could be interesting because queen allows you to draw a ton of cards, but with only that Otama, a precious 2000 power character, not a lot of options in this hand. I feel like we do see that PBR01 queen though in that hand. I like that. The Rob Lucci seems to have a little bit more of a decent hand with the Spandam and the Tempest Kick. Going to be able to do some milling, and then the Khalifa as well, an excellent option if you would like to be able to draw and build up your trash, but not only your hand for that 8-drop Gecko. Also, having that Who's Who in hand will be nice for when they do some eventual minusing and whatnot. No stage in this hand, though. Stage, one of the most important cards, I feel like, in the Red Purple Law matchup, because especially as Red Purple Law runs around with 5s and 4s, not really anything higher in cost than that. The stage is such a great card to be able to make popping characters so much easier in this one. So we're going to see how the Rob Lucci adjusts in this game. Players have got their headsets on. They are ready to go with their starting hands, and we are off. The Red Purple Law going first with that Doflamingo Dawn from PBR01, just going to be passing, and the Rob Lucci starting it off with a Spandam. So as the Red Purple Law player, you like that you're not seeing a stage, but the Spandam is going to be able to build up a little bit quickly. I don't mind the Tempest Kick draw either. Usually a lot of times you don't necessarily need Tempest Kick a lot, especially when you find like stage and stuff. Sometimes it's a little bit better to just build the trash up and maybe draw a card like Gecko that you usually wouldn't be able to find on searches. So this 8k swing from the Law is going to hit and grab a Suru off life. No stage trigger right there, but that draw is going to be a stage, so we might see on this play 2 Dawn for the stage and swinging 7 with the Lucci. I think that's what this Lucci player is thinking about right now. I'm going to be starting off swinging 7 first, going to be doing that leader effect to build up the trash yet again, a Sabo blocker and a Jack hitting the discard pile. Going to be getting Law's first life as they got a Black Maria in the draw last turn, and the life being a Law blocker. Getting a Sachi Penguin is nice. Going to be able to maybe leader effect to be able to cheat out some characters on this field. Gonna start out, looks like maybe with a couple Dawn. Might be thinking of swinging 7 and then using Black Maria in this turn. I was thinking maybe they want to try to do some drawing with Queen, but maybe looking a little bit away from that, maybe playing the Black Maria and then utilizing the Law or something, because there are 6 in hand. If you can get 7 on a swing, right, playing the Black Maria and then using the leader effect to go get the law is going to pay you a lot of dividends. But just going to start out by swinging 5, maybe thinking, you know what, there's no way he's going to allow me with that many cards in hand to get him at 7. I might as well just swing 5, try to get one of these cards, and then go ahead and do some drawing with the queen. Going to be a 2K Khalifa, so that's nice to see. You love seeing a 2K hit the bench, but playing the queen right now, the PBR01 Jolly Roger Hollow Queen, I will say. A nice addition into that reprint set. Gonna draw Sachi Penguin and Rush Zoro. The Rush Zoro could be nice to do a little bit of poke damage, especially when Dawn could get tough, but is going to have to trash one of these cards. It looks like it's going to be a Law Blocker right here. I don't mind the Law Blocker. You really like having the 2Ks and whatnot, and just going to pass the turn there. No leader effect to be used. If you play Black Maria on the field, especially with stage, you are prone to a Rob Lucci or any sort of pop at this point. So just conserving the Dawn to be able to use later in this game. Gonna have 6 Dawn in general, and that stage is going to -2 the queen, put it at 3, and then going ahead and using the Who's Who. The Who's Who is going to trash that Gecko. Go to pop the queen right there as that Who's Who KOs a character with the cost of 3 or less. Just trying to be efficient with their cards, and getting rid of that queen is going to do some damage, but a lot of cards in this red purple Law's hand, especially if they're able to get a little bit more draw with queens and things like that. Using the final Dawn to swing 6 right now in the red purple Law. Going to prompt that Sachi Penguin 2K is going to draw Sanji right here. So the Sanji could be good, especially if you plan on using leader effect in this turn, is going to be able to play that card down. And remember, even though when you're behind 2 or more Dawn, that Sanji being 3 cost less, once it hits the field, it does go back to that 6 cost. So could be a pesky card in this matchup. With 6 Dawn right here, maybe thinking about bottom decking the Who's Who at this point. You've only seen the Otama, so bottom decking might be slightly difficult, but the red purple Law leader swinging 5, they're thinking about taking it. They're thinking about countering out. They've got some pretty important cards in hand, right? Rebecca, a really good card. Suru, a really good card. So opting to just take that life and not utilize any counter in hand. Don't really want to pitch any of them right now. The red purple Law now resting 3, going to be playing this aura. Going to do another 5 poke right here. Would not mind maybe seeing the Rebecca potentially hit the bin, because you're going to be at 8 next turn. Could play a Gecko, but opts for the Suru instead. And so now with that Suru gone, that 2K going to be bottom decking that Spam Dam, not using any of the minusing that we have, valuing the Otama as a 2K. Going to play that Sanji because you are down 2 or more, and then with the rest of the Dawn, play Black Maria and then use Black Maria effect to get all of that Dawn back and match your opponent at 6, basically using the leader effect for free. We're really seeing the strength of Black Maria in this one. Looks like red purple Law having a strong stance right now, but now as we're getting to the later stages of the game, at 8 Dawn, Gecko is now live. So do you want to use Gecko? Haven't seen a Rob Lucci yet in terms of a character card. Would be really good in getting rid of some of these bodies that are on the field right now. Remember that especially with Gecko being on an 8 Dawn turn, you're not going to be able to use the Tempest Kick that you've got right here in your hand to do any minusing, because you just don't have enough Dawn to be able to use that method. So going to be curious to see what this player decides to do after getting another Rebecca right here. Rebecca, a tough card in this matchup because it does get bottom deck so easily, being a 0 power character. They might actually be going in and using the Tempest Kick. Really thinking about that Tempest Kick right now, and going to be attaching one swinging 6 at the Zoro. Going to be using the effect and getting a Rob Lucci down right there, minusing 1 to one of those characters. Going to be an easy 2K out of this one, but the more 2Ks that you use and the more counter that you use, the less cards that you have in hand to be able to accelerate your game plan into your turn. So it's going to be a fine line that this player has to walk, knowing that there's at least a who's who attack coming into the game. So thinking about pitching this Sachi Penguin, I think especially with Black Maria on the field, you're at a good portion with your Dawn, so you don't mind pitching this 2K right here. Sachi Penguin, especially after the first couple turns, really isn't a card that you usually see played anymore. So doing some stage and minusing, looking to maybe utilize another who's who right here. Going to be using that who's who, pitching the Rebecca, gonna pop that Sanji, no value on the block, and attach the last two Dawn, swing 7 at the Zoro. So would have to pitch an Otama and a Law Blocker or Queen, but opts to instead just keep that alive. You do have Black Maria alive right now, so you are going to be able to do some damage. And with another Sanji right here, as you also hit the 8 Dawn, could have a situation where you play the Queen, use the leader or Queen effect, right? Draw a couple cards after that Dawn minus, and then go ahead, use the leader effect, play the Sanji to get 2 blockers right now. And as you pull a Reiju and a Eustace Captain Kid, 2 incredible cards, I will say, to have. The Eustace Captain Kid really good at getting you Dawn back, especially as active in the Reiju, continuously pushing your game plan as an excellent draw card in this deck. We talk about this every time we see Red Purple Law in these championships, how Reiju is such an instrumental card to the game plan that a lot of times when we see these Law players lose, it's because they don't find the Reiju. So really valuing this Reiju, thinking about pitching the Blocker Law. I do agree. I think the Blocker Law is probably the least important card in your hand. Lucci, not necessarily known for being a deck that draws a lot of cards in comparison to trashing cards. So having a 3-card hand right now, unless they start taking life up the wazoo, is not going to be a lot of cards in hand. So you're not going to get that Law Blocker effect, and you have plenty of other blockers in your hand to utilize. So thinking about what to do now, especially with the rest of this Dawn, going to go ahead and use the leader effect. And I do like this play. Going to be using the Reiju to draw cards off of this. And then because with the rest of the 3 Dawn, I have a really good feeling that they're going to play the Sanji from hand, because you're only at 4 Dawn right now as the Red Purple Law. So you are 2 or less. So you're going to be able to play that 6 cost of body on the field for cheap, and then use Black Maria to really just catch up to the Rob Lucci yet again. So this 5K swing right here from the Law is going to be doing a little bit of math right here, probably thinking about, okay, if Kid Killer is going to come down on the field, one, they can't put Kid Killer down on the field, but what else could come in its placement? And a potential trigger, probably a Tempest Kick right now. So if it's a Tempest Kick, Black Maria, I would pop this Black Maria right now if this is a Tempest Kick, or an Ice Age. Maybe it's an Ice Age. We saw an Ice Age earlier in the list. It is a Tempest Kick, decides not to use it. I feel like personally I would have used it with 3 Dawn. It's a little bit tricky though, because we have the glory of seeing the player's hand, knowing that they don't have a Black Maria, but with 3 Dawn left, it's a little tricky sometimes, because you may think that 3 Dawn is a Black Maria, right? So going ahead, like I mentioned, playing the Sanji, then using the Black Maria effect, really a missed opportunity, I feel like, from this Rob Lucci player. Having 2 Tempest Kicks in life and not being able to use trigger on any of them just hurts. So going now into a full 10 Dawn, does have access to a Gecko Moria and a couple Tempest Kicks. I believe that there are over 10 cards in trash, so when you have a Rob Lucci in trash as well, you're going to be able to get rid of a couple bodies on this field, and especially with the Brook, might be able to do some shenanigans with a Rebecca of sorts if you decide to bring that in to be able to utilize that Brook in hand, but is going to first be using the Tempest Kick, drawing a stage. Not going to help you because you already have a stage on field, and the minusing is going to go to the Queen, putting it at a 2 right there. And so 9 Dawn left in this turn. We'll see exactly what they want to do with it. They could go for the Sanji, but they could also go for the Reiju. So going to be using that one for the other Tempest Kick, drawing another Rebecca, which is nice in the coming turns, but is going to minus that Sanji. The stage minusing the Sanji, 5 in total. Now Sanji at 1, Queen at 2. Could play this Gecko Moria, right? Gecko Moria. Sorry, I'm still trying to get into my pronunciations. The Gecko could play that down right now, so no block value is coming in for the red purple law. That could be a play that we see right here before the 5K swings come in from the Who's Who and the Rob Lucci. That's what I would personally do. You don't want to get any value off of those. And so going ahead, going to be resting all 8 of the Dawn potentially. If you have a Spandam in trash, which I believe off of the Spandam, they did find another Spandam, you could go a Rob Lucci and Spandam right there as your 4 or less and 2 or less off of the Gecko. That way you're able to build up the trash, potentially see a 2K in the Khalifa, right? Because that is a searchable 2K, or maybe the Who's Who. Remember, Who's Who is a CP9 card in OP08, and so could give you some value right there. Or maybe in the next turn, if you find one of your other Rob Lucci's, you would imagine that the Rob Lucci that you have hypothetically playing off an 8-cost Gecko would be bottom decked, right? Because it's an easy card to bottom deck off a Gordon or a Raise Max, and is a pesky card in general. So being able to grab another one of those potentially off your Spandam search on the Gecko play could help you in this next turn when you have to Rebecca, right? And there it goes. That right there, that swing right there is going to minus the Queen. So I believe both of the Queen and Sanji are at 1 and deciding right now. Very interesting that they decided to swing first and do the minus, because we saw the Tempest Kick put the Queen down to 2, right? So with the Sanji at 1 and the Queen at 2, maybe they're not thinking about using the Gecko to pop the Queen and the Sanji. Maybe thinking about popping the Black Maria instead. And so using that Gecko right now is going to be thinking about what they want to do. I'd imagine that Rob Lucci is their first choice, but they need a 2 or less. Thinking about the Suru. So the Suru is going to minus one of these characters. The minus is going to happen on one of them, I think. I can't tell which one it was, and it looks like it's going to be those 2 that I mentioned KO'd. So interesting spot. I wonder if I missed something in the Tempest Kicks. Maybe the Tempest Kicks were going both to the Sanji, and so the stage and leader needed to minus the Queen, because that would be 3 in general. Maybe I ended up missing that sequence there to see, because unless they don't have a Spandam in trash, then Suru is kind of like your only other option to be able to utilize. But now we go into the red purple laws turn. All 10 Dawn, a Black Maria and a Reiju in hand. Did find another Black Maria, and that Kid Killer that they drew in the previous turn is going to be pretty good, I feel like, in this match. So thinking about adding a couple Dawn to the Reiju, going to be swinging 7 first, going to be taking that life. Going to be a Gecko, not good for the counter, right? You're not going to have more counter in hand, but it could be nice in the turn to be able to get some guys back and maybe do a little bit more popping now that you have another Rob Lucci in the trash. But with only 5 cards in hand, got to be thinking that the Law should be the aggressor on here. But here's the problem. The Rob Lucci also didn't swing with the Suru. So maybe thinking that in this next turn with all 10 done, going to be swinging with a ton of different characters to be able to try to hit for lethal. We've seen crazy things before in these tournaments, and taking that life is going to be a Spandam right here. might be interesting. You could use leader effect, get the Kid Killer on field, attach the rest of your active Dawn, 6 of them, to the Kid Killer and take the win, I believe, right here. So maybe trying to hype out, you know, I mean, the Kid Killer right here, I think the Kid Killer wins this game at this point. The minusing is going to bottom deck that one character. Kid Killer hits the field. Here is 6 Dawn attached to the Kid Killer and swung for game. Red Purple Law winning that one right there. Very interesting because I believe that the Lucci didn't have to take some of those swings at the end, if my memory is correct, right? The 7K swing, you do have 8 in hand. It would be costly because you would have to do Rebecca, Brooke, and also Rebecca, or the Reiju would be able to get out of that because you also had the, did you have the Spandam? No, you got the Gecko off life on the first one, but had 2 7K swings that they could go through on there. So interesting choices, especially not using the Tempest Kick trigger. And then also in that final turn, I kind of want to rewatch that final turn on the like Tempest Kicks and stuff because I feel like I missed something. Okay, so here we go. Nothing has happened yet. We see the first Tempest Kick. The Tempest Kick is going, you draw the card, then you minus something. What does he minus? I think he minuses the queen right here. Okay, it looks like the queen. So the queen is at 2, and he also makes that motion on 2. So queen's at 2. We need to remember that. The other Tempest Kick is going to go. Yeah, other Tempest Kick goes. Draw the card. And then the Sanji. It looks like it's motion towards the Sanji. So Sanji is at 3, right? Stage is then used. Sanji is at 1. You have a 2-1 right there. I'm still confused about why the Gecko just wasn't played right away. I would love if anybody, and this is this is usually a lot more than what I've done kind of evaluating gameplay or like trying to go back and, I don't know if critique is the right word, but like analyze gameplay in a sense. That's not something I usually do on the channel. So you guys are lucky that I'm doing this, I guess, trying to do this. But if you have like a sort of reasoning, maybe there's a line I'm not seeing, right? I am a Nami player. Like I mainly play Nami and I just started this past week playing Rob Lucci for myself. So maybe there's a line I'm not seeing. Maybe there's something that I'm not understanding. Feel free to let me know in the comments below. As always, I love having discussions with you all on these matches, on the deck lists, on just the game in general. So feel free to let me know in a civil way. Don't like be mean or anything because I'm sure there was a line that they were seeing. But Red Purple Law ends up winning this one, evening the score just a little bit. 4-2 now overall. Rob Lucci still has the lead, but a close game, I feel like, nonetheless, especially at the end there. I've got both of the deck lists. Let's look at both of the deck lists. So let's look at the Rob Lucci first. I feel like in here, the Ice Ages are making a comeback in this list. I think a lot of times, especially in these last couple tournaments, we've seen a lot of the zero cost events that are played in this deck. And so Ice Age, maybe people really starting to figure out, okay, I really need this minus to happen sometimes, or this trigger to KO things from time to time. Another card that has a KO trigger effect, right? Tempest Kick and Ice Age, both KOing characters of 3 or less, could be good on the field for potentially the mirror match with something like Brooke. Could be nice for the Red Purple Law popping the Black Marias or the Charlotte Puddings that are played. And just in general, your pretty standard list, I feel like, for Rob Lucci. Just instead of zero cost events, you've got the Ice Ages, right? The main package of the CP engine, right? You've got your Spandam searches, Khalifa 2Ks, Rob Lucci poppers, the Spandine right here, a couple of those, and then your another 2K edition in the Who's Who with Tempest Kick And Ennis Lobby, although not a CP9 card, is really good for the CP engine in general. You got some draw support in here from the Khalifa and the Sabo, and Sabo part of the blocker package that is Sabo and Rebecca in this. Jack, we didn't get to see Jack in this game, but Jack giving itself a cost of 4+ is really nice in not only the mirror match, right, being an 11 cost character, but being able to rest the character, draw one, trash one, do a little bit of hand filtering, and then KOing a cost of 3 or less is really nice after using something like Tempest Kick, right? Or really any minusing effects, right? You have a couple other minusing effects in the Suru, the Helmeppo, Brook I mentioned earlier. And then with the leader effect and stage gives you a lot of flexibility and a lot of plays that you can potentially make. But the red purple law here, same list as yesterday in here that we saw because we showcased their top 4 match. Basically the same deck as usual that we've seen, except this tournament playing this one of Radical Beam as a tech card in the deck. Could be nice in a lot of situations, you know, with Dawn manipulation and getting a ton of Dawn. You might have a situation where you're like, oh, I've got 1 Dawn left, or I can leave 1 Dawn left, right, in a game and be able to use that in the late game as 9,000 counter, right? Could save you in a lot of situations, especially when we talk about the mirror match and Kid Killer being one of the strongest cards in the game, and especially one of the strongest red cards right now in the game. Substituting a Gordon for the Radical Beam, only having 7 of these Gordon and Raise Maxes was not something that we saw really affect them in this tournament in the 2 matches that we did watch, but just having a strong presence. And the Queens, I mean, only really playing 1 or 2 of the Queens in this game was just enough draw, especially after finding a Reiju, to be able to get the pieces that you needed to win the game and close it out with the Kid Killer. Again, we saw the showcase of the Black Maria card that many of you want banned in the One Piece trading card game when the August 12th ban list gets announced. This really showcased its strength in the deck, being able to utilize leader effect every single turn, and if this thing sticks around, really pumps up the game plan. So I would have loved to see the Tempest Kick trigger on this card just to get rid of it, especially before they used it, but that's not how it played out. But thank you again so much for watching. I super appreciate you checking out this video. Remember, again, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, blah blah blah. I don't know when the next Japan Championship is going to be, so I'm going to be working on some other kinds of videos, you know, the usual. You guys have left some video ideas and stuff in the comments, which I'm very excited to try to dip into and produce for you all. But when the next one happens, I'll let you know, and we'll definitely have videos. This was a cool tournament. We saw a lot of Vegapunk. Vegapunk was the main star of this tournament, no doubt. And if you missed those videos, go check them out on the channel. I have a whole playlist of this tournament specifically that you can check it out there, as well as another playlist of every single commentary video that I've done on the channel. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and yeah, just keep playing One Piece.